Beruchim Aba'im Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night class. B'simanat Tava, B'siman Tov. We are beginning, Be'ezrat Hashem, a new cycle. Sefer Bereshit, Parashat Bereshit. At the end of a Masechet, we make a proclamation. Hadran. Hadran means we're going to return to you. We make a commitment that this is not the last time we're going to study this tractate. Hadran, we'll be back. We do the same thing when we finish Vezota Beracha. We finish the last parasha in the Torah. We say also a Hadran. Now we're going to return to the Torah. We're not done. Our Torah is not limited to studying it once. Nothing that is connected to God can be limited to one or two times. God is infinite, and therefore His Torah is infinite. And therefore the Torah must be studied and can be studied an infinite amount of times. And no matter how much we study the Torah, we never are able to exhaust all the interpretations. Just on the word Bereshit alone. One word Bereshit. Rabbi Yaakov Abu Hasera, he wrote 300 pirushim on the word Bereshit. The Baba Sali wrote a book just on the word Bereshit. The Gaon Mevilna said, just on the words Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, in those 7 words is already included all the events and all the secrets behind the world from the beginning of the creation till the end of time. And it's more detail from Bereshit until Asher bara Elohim na'asot, and it's in more detail from Bereshit till Le'anei Kol Yisrael. Our Torah is the blueprint of our creation. Histakel be'oraita o bara alma. That means our Torah is following, or our world is following the blueprint of our Torah. And therefore it's an endless study. You shouldn't think to yourself, well, we studied Parashat Bereshit. What is he going to tell us that we don't know already about Parashat Bereshit? We learned all these stories already from when we were in kindergarten. That's the problem. Most people, their study of the Tanakh is on a 2nd grade level, and they never upgrade the information. They never mature to higher levels of understanding. There are so many issues just in the beginning of the parasha. From time to time, people ask the following question. I didn't hear this question once, I heard it many times. And I usually hear it at this time of the year, Parashat Bereshit. I say, Rabbi, we know the Torah believes in creation. Torah believes in divine design. Bereshit bara Elohim, God created the heavens and the earth. But what about science? The scientists and the professors, they look at it a different way. And I'm not talking about the evolutionists. Because those that believe in evolution, even in the scientific world, they are scorned upon today. The theory of evolution has been debunked so many times over that it's not even considered any more credible. So I'm not talking about that. But more, I'll say, credible or more proven theories that today are being proposed in the colleges and the universities is a theory that's called the Big Bang Theory. To be honest with you, and I'm not going to fool you, I'm not really an expert or fluent in exactly what the theory is so much. I never spent time analyzing all its details. But basically what they're saying was that there was an explosion of light. And somehow from this explosion of light, The Big Bang is an explosion of light. Eventually, somehow, came the world. So, the college student comes to the religious student and says, what does your Torah have to say about this? We look in the Torah, we don't see anything about a Big Bang theory. We don't see anything about an explosion of light. So they're challenging us, as if to say, you claim that the Torah is the blueprint of creation. You claim that Torah is progressive. You claim that the Torah is ahead of its time. Well, how come then they don't have this fact that today is acceptable in the scientific world? Why is that not documented in the Torah? Now, my first answer is, we're not trying to prove anything. Why do we have to take our Torah, which is the ultimate truth, and squeeze it into every scientific theory? You have a scientific theory, good luck to you. Our Torah is the Torah Emet. That's what I know. And the truth is absolute. And every single word in our Torah, and every single dot in the Torah, and every single hair on every letter in our Torah is absolute truth. There's no book of its kind. Even a document that's reread and reread and reread, they find mistakes. Even a document that's proofread by lawyers and scholars, it's still subject for amendment and for changes and for correction. En sefer belo ta'ut. Every book has mistakes. Every newspaper has corrections. Our Torah is the ultimate truth. So I don't have to start answering for the ultimate truth. Why doesn't it fit into what any scientist in Harvard or in Columbia, because he woke up one morning and he sneezed, I don't have to fit his sneeze into where is it in the Torah? That's on the contrary. It's the obligation of the scientist to fit his theory into the Torah. The burden of proof is not on us. We're holding the truth in our hand. You have something to say, so go find it in the Torah and see if your theory stands the test of truth. That's really the answer. They're putting us on the defensive, as if until you show us that the Torah is can coincide with the Mada, with the modern intellect, I'm not interested. But their starting point is wrong. Who has to prove who to who? Just an example. I didn't come here tonight to berate the scientists or to berate the professors in the colleges. We could do that another night, Be'ezrat Hashem. The point is, as an example, for the past 2,000-3,000 years, more than that, up until 500 years ago, the common belief of the intellectuals of the world was that the world is flat. And probably I would have believed like that also if I lived in that time. The world to me looks flat between me and you. I walk on a flat world. The old Greeks believed that earthquakes actually come from 4 elephants that were holding up the earth. And when the elephants sneeze, so the earth shakes. That's what they believed. And everybody said, oh, that's brilliant, that's genius. Today we laugh and it's comical. There were theories that said if you keep on walking and walking and walking, you'll fall off the end of the earth. I mean, at the end, you get to a dead end sign. Here's the end, the finish line. And then it just tells you, to make a U-turn. That's what they believed. They believed the world was flat. And again, I don't have a problem with them believing that at that time, because how could you believe the world is round? They didn't talk about gravity in those days. So if you don't introduce gravity into the equation, so if the world is round, you'll fall off. You can't live on a basketball. How are you going to stand straight on a basketball? You need gravity to hold you down. So that was the theory at the time. No problem. Today, well, let's go to the 1600s. Galileo, and then you had the different scientists that started to think a little unconventional. And today it's clear with Hubble telescope, and we saw pictures of it, the world is clearly round. It's a sphere, it's cylindrical, and today anybody that says otherwise he's flat. His brain is flat. His brain is square. It's not up for discussion anymore what the shape of the earth is. It is clear. We can prove it. It's documented. No problem. Only thing is, the Torah has been saying this for 3,500 years already. Nobody was listening, but the Torah said it. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai in the Zohar clearly writes it. It doesn't only talk about that the world is round, he says, kadur, like a ball. Not only that, he says, but there are those that are living on top of the ball, and there are those that are living on the bottom of the ball. So already he introduced gravity, because you can only live on the bottom of the ball if there's gravity holding you. And he talked about time zones, where he said that the people living on the bottom of the world live in a different time zone. When it's light by us, it's dark by them. And when it's dark by them, it's light by us. So we understood time zones. Not only that, but he said the people living on the other side of the world look different than us. Now, I don't know if Rabbi Shimon ever saw a Chinese or a Japanese. There weren't any sushi stores in Meron at the time, or in the cave where he was. But he understood it. Now again, when he wrote that 3,500 years ago, or however long ago it was, I'm sure the modern college professor would say, oh, look at these Jews. If they would only just keep to the religious law, what are they sticking their head into the realm of science for? What kind of absurdity is that? But today we see that the science finally caught up. There's usually about a 5,000 year disparity between the science and the Torah. Usually they're 5,000 years behind us. So they caught up. So who has to prove what to who? We're the bearers of the truth. So, Baruch Hashem, if you asked a child 3,500 years ago that went to the yeshiva, he would tell you the world is round. They would laugh at him. Today, they say he was a genius. So who's the burden of proof on? We sing a song every Shabbat in our synagogue. The song was written by Rabbi Yosef Karo. Rabbi Yosef Karo, Moshe is a relative of the Rabbi Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch. He wrote a song called Yasad Besodo. If you look at the acronym of the song, Yasad Besodo, it's Yosef ben Harav. And in that song, which has to be 500 years ago, that's when he wrote the song. Shulchan Aruch is like in the 1400s, mid-1400s. 500 years ago, I don't know how prevalent in the scientific world this concept of the world being flat or the world being round was. It wasn't prevalent, that's for sure. He writes in the song few words. Tole Adama Toch Shamayim. Tole Adama Toch Shamayim. We sing it. What is Tole Adama? God suspends the earth in the sky. Now that is clearly what is happening. Today, when you look at the picture of the earth from the standpoint of the moon, you see it's a ball, and you see it's just floating in space, like all the other planets that are cylindrical, and they're spinning and they're orbiting, but they're just floating in space. Nobody understood that 500 years ago. That the Adama is suspended. They believed they were talking about the sneezing elephants. They were talking about pillars that were holding up the earth, a flat earth that was on ground. And the author, Rabbi Yosef Karo, as a matter of fact, just throws it in a song. He wasn't writing a thesis in college somewhere where he's trying to prove some breakthrough knowledge. But in that one line, he already was so advanced in his understanding of how the world works. Why? Because he's the bearer of the book, he's the bearer of the Torah. And in the Torah, it's going to tell you the truth. So then I say again, who has to prove who to what? Because you heard a theory in college. So now you're coming to say, oh, I'm not going to believe the Torah until you could show me. If there's, why do I have to show you anything? Maybe your theory is wrong, first of all. Because most of the time it's theoretical, these things that they talk about. Now, I just have to explain to you what theory is for a second. I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence. I know you know what theory is. Theory is something that's not conclusive, although it's based on fact. Fact number one, fact number two, fact number three, and then they conclude, because A and B and C, this is our conclusion. But it's not necessarily conclusive. Just because A is true and B is true and C is true doesn't mean that the result is going to be D. That's the theory part of it. The mashal. This mashal we said this morning in the synagogue. I said it in honor of my friend David from Australia. A kangaroo. A kangaroo is born, it's a tiny creature. When a kangaroo is born, it looks like a grasshopper. It's tiny. It jumps into the mother's, what do you call it, Joey? It jumps into the mother's pouch, and it grows. In the first year of a kangaroo's life, it grows 5,000 times its size. So it goes from being a few grams to being a few kilos, and in height as well. And the average life expectancy for a kangaroo is 22 years. They don't have, arichut yamim as humans, let's say. I'm not too sure. Maybe there's a lot of stress into being a kangaroo, the hopping. I'm not an expert on this either. But the point is, let's say you had a scientist that was coming to do a thesis on kangaroos. Now, he doesn't have 22 years to sit and just watch the kangaroo and study it. So he studies him for the first year. And he documents. He says, wow, look at this. We're seeing something unbelievable, unprecedented. The kangaroo multiplied in size by 5,000 times. This is an amazing thing. So he's able to make an assumption that looks like this kangaroo is only going to make it for 22 years. Says, you know what, I'm concluding. First year he grew by 5,000 times. Conclusion, he lives for 22 years. By the age of 22, the kangaroo is going to weigh 400 million pounds, and it's going to be 63 miles high. Based on fact, because this is the... But it's a theory. It's not proven. He didn't see it come to fruition. Because who said he grows 5,000 times every year, his size? Maybe it's only the first year. Just like human beings. We have a growth spurt, and after a certain period of time, we stop growing. But again, is his facts correct? Yes, facts are correct. 5,000 the first year, and he lives for 22 years. Nothing is wrong in his facts. But based on those facts, he comes with a result. The result not necessarily is true. That's the theoretical part of it. So we don't have to stop. So now I'll come to you. You see my theory? Where does it say in the Torah that a kangaroo is 400 billion pounds? Well, I don't have to prove a sheker. The book of Emet is not going to prove everybody's nightmare that he had the night before. However, it is interesting to note, if we're talking about the Big Bang Theory, which, again, is a godless theory. They don't introduce God into that theory. They talk about light. They talk about the banging of the light. They talk about the explosions. But when you ask them, where did this light come from? We're still working on it. How about God? No, they don't want to go there. I'm reminding myself. I'm going to tell you a hadush, that I'm going to tell you a study that I just read right before I came to the shiur, which is mind-boggling. So we open our Torah, and let's see how the Torah talks about creation. And today they're talking about that they have proofs that the world started with light. It started with the crashing of lights. I don't know exactly how they could prove it. They have different ways where it's proven. It's not just theoretical anymore. They're showing that they could trace back the origins of how the world begins, and it's an explosion of light. And they come along and say, you people that believe in divine design, there's no mention of it. It only comes because people don't learn correctly. If you open up our Torah, this week's Parashah, first pasuk, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. The Zohar HaKadosh says that pasuk is an introduction pasuk. It's not saying anything. It's just saying in the beginning God created the heavens and earth, but it's not talking about the process. It's talking about the result. The second pasuk also is an introduction pasuk. Ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim. The beginning of creation begins in pasuk number 3. And what's the first pasuk of creation? Vayomer Elohim yehi or. The first part of creation is let there be light. Now it's clear that that light that we're talking about is not sunlight. How do I know it's not sunlight? Very good, on both sides of the aisle. The sun was not created until Yom Revi'i, until Wednesday. Now, even though when we were in second grade, they didn't get into that detail with us. Yea, or let there be light, and let every kid think it's the sun, and we're not going to start, it wasn't the sun, but it's another light, and go try to explain to a second grade, it's Or Haganuz, and Or Ensof, and confuse them with all these Kabbalistic terminologies. So in second grade, we just told the kids, Vayhi Or, and there was light, let there be light, that's a goodbye. However, the Sfarim HaKedoshim explain that this Or over here was a light that permeated the entire universe, if there was a universe at the time. I'm not going to say a world because there was no world. But whatever there was, whatever mass, whatever area there was, it was just filled with this Or. Or is a synonym for God. Or equals Hashem. Don't get confused. God is not light. En lo guf ve'en lo demuta guf. It's forbidden for us to have even a thought of Hagshama, that God, Has v'Shalom, has an image or a form. This is very dangerous to even think like that. So when we say that God is a light, that's only for us to understand things, because the most spiritual element that we could talk about is a light. So we refer to God in a synonym as Or. But you shouldn't think, that's what God looks like a light. No, that's a synonym that we use so our limited brains can understand God. And the Sefarim say that the universe was permeated with this Or and Sof. It was everywhere. And it's a bright, and it's, God is God. The name Or and Sof, an unlimited, unfiltered light. And at a certain moment, now again, you're not going to find this in Pirush Rashi. Rashi came to explain the Peshat. And we don't expect that Rashi is going to go now start explaining to us something that was only revealed to us many years later by the Benu Ari. That's not the job of Rashi. Rashi came to explain Pishuto Shel Mikra. Although Rashi knew this, without a shadow of a doubt. Rashi knew this when he was nursing. He knew this when he had a baby. He knew this. And at a certain point, the Benu Ari writes, God decided to make what's called a tzimtzum. How do we explain tzimtzum? Tzimtzum, he wanted to restrict this light because he wanted to create the world. But the light is so strong you can't create a world where this great Or Ein Sof is, because it's like trying to create a house, build a house in a volcano, in an active volcano. The lava, the heat is too powerful to build anything constructive. So God, so to speak, he removed himself a little to the sides. And now picture that you have or all over the place. And then in the middle you have a circle. And that circle over there is the area that the light was removed from. Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or. At that moment, Yehi Or means that in that bowl that was now devoid of that light, now God says we're going to create the world in this area of the universe. Because now it can receive a world. But the world cannot exist without some light of God. You need light of God. Just like a human being needs oxygen to breathe, there has to be a spiritual nucleus that's running the world. But it cannot be that mega nuclear Or Ein Sof because it's too strong. Just like nobody could live on the sun, Could you build the world on the sun? You can't build the world on the sun. Nobody can exist. You can't even get close to the sun. So what God did is He was mitzamtzem the or, and now you have this circle, this ball. But God has to let some light in. So what happens? He makes a little crack, we'll call it. A little opening to allow some beams of this light to penetrate. Enough that can create a world without burning it, without destroying it. And the light starts to come down. The higher it is to its source, the more spiritual, the more esoteric, the higher it is. And as it comes down, it becomes more physical until it finally reaches our world, which we are now. And then we have the world which is called Olam Asiyah. But it didn't start with Olam Asiyah. Rabbeinu Ari says it started with the world that's very beyond us. It's called Olam Ak. Whatever Ak is. Go ask somebody what Ak is. Adam Kadmon. It's a high world that's beyond us. And then after the Adam Kadmon world, He created a world called Atzilut. Atzilut means Etzel, because it's close to God. And then after Atzilut, He created the world of Biriyah and Yesirah. These are words of the angels. It's all from this light. And finally, as the light was coming down and the light was crashing, the Menurah said the light was hitting each other. And finally, it came down to Olam Ha'asiyah. And that's what it means in the Pasuk, Vayomer Elim Yehi Or, let the light permeate this area of darkness. So I say to the Big Bang theorist, first of all, you're wrong. That's my first answer to him. You're wrong. Because you don't know where the light came from. We know where the light came from. The light emanates from Or Ein Sof. That's the light of God. So your theory that's godless is wrong. But don't tell me that our Torah is regressive. Our Torah has been talking about this light and this Big Bang and this whatever you want to call it before you were even dreaming about this, before your great grandfather was ever conceived. The Torah already wrote this in the third pasuk in the Torah. And anybody that studied the books of Rabbeinu Ari understood that the world began with a light. Again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not an apologist. I'm not coming, you see, Baruch Hashem, now you go to sleep tonight. The Torah was able to survive science. That's not my purpose over here. But fact be told that if there is a theory there that's talking about this, our Torah is talking about the light as well. And when you start to open the Sefarim and you see how perfect... Now, the scientists don't know what Olam Atzilut is and Biriyah. They're far from the truth yet. They haven't come to the truth of this. And it'll take them another 5,000 years to start figuring that out. Now, when you answer that to somebody, say, wow, the Torah talks about this Or? I never looked at the Pasuk like that. That means there can be a peace treaty between such a theory that's being proposed and what our Torah says. Don't misquote me. Don't. I know it's the nature, because you don't want to talk for 25 minutes. The nature is that you're going to come along and you want what the rabbi said. The rabbi said that we believe in the Big Bang Theory. I know, because you're going to be lazy. You don't want to go through the introductions that I gave you, which is a normal nature. So you're going to give your succinct version of what you think I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying tonight. That the Torah believes in this Big Bang Theory. I don't have to tell the Torah what it believes in. The Torah is the Torah. My point is to show you that the science is finally catching up to us. That's my point. That when the Torah was talking about light, and a light coming down from a higher place, and so they're already, talking about, as an example, we always believed, based on our Torah, that everything has this light in it. Rav Chaim Volozhin writes in his introduction that there's a big difference between the creation of God and the creation of a human being. A creation of a human being, number one, he needs raw materials to begin the creation. You have to give the carpenter wood and a hammer and nails. Now with his talent, he can build you a table. But you can't tell a carpenter, build me a table without any raw materials. Why should I build it? Well, that's your problem. Can I get wood? No. You have to build it here, this from this air. It cannot be. A human being cannot build yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. God, on the other hand, when he started the creation, there was nothing. There was just Od Ein Sof, this light. And he himself created from no raw materials. He created the raw material which created the world. Second thing Rav Chaim Volozhin says. Chaim Volozhin writes that a human being, after he makes the table, he's not related to the table anymore. The table doesn't need him. He sells the table to a furniture store. He goes home and sleeps. He moves away, far away from the table. And he does not have to do anything else to keep that table in existence. As a matter of fact, in most cases, the table will even outlive its builder. Whereas in the creation, every moment God is recreating the world. It's not something that happened 5,700 so odd years ago. If somebody asks you, when did God create the world? You're supposed to answer a second ago, just now. Now, if he asks you, when's the first time he created it? Oh, the first time? Yeah, that's 5,000 of them. But you're asking me when the last time he created the world? Right now, he just did it again. God creates it and constantly has to infuse in the world his will. That means there's a constant light of God that's keeping the world. The mashal that we gave is, God forbid, if somebody's on life support. He needs that machine to be on him to live. Once they take the machine off or they pull the plug, he cannot live anymore. God has the world on life support. God is infusing his life into the world. We say it every day in the prayers. The creation is not something that was, it's something that is, it's something that's ongoing, it's something that's happening. We say it in the Tehillim as well. Le'oseh orim gedolim. God is making the great luminaries. We say a beracha, oseh ma'aseh bereshit. He's oseh, that's in the present tense. So there's a nucleus of God in everything in the creation. Go tell that to a scientist. Well, many years ago they didn't acknowledge this. But today, as you all learned in science class, they talk about the atom. And what did they tell you about the atom? So, in the atom there's a lot of molecular activity. And they show it to you. They show you the protons and the neutrons and the electrons. And remember, I don't want to bring you back to all the good days that you had in elementary school. And they show you it's spinning, and this has 3 neutrons and 2 protons, all the different calculations over there. And they show there's a whole world inside of even the most simple molecule. And they talk about the energy that's inside of it. And they talk about the energy being so strong that if somebody, which they did already, could figure out how to split an atom, you could blow up the world. The release of that energy that's inside even the one atom, this is an atomic bomb, this is nuclear, they're able to split and release that. So there's an energy, you're telling me, in this table over here, that if somebody could, not break the table, we're not talking about breaking the table. Breaking the table won't do anything. Breaking the table will break the table. But to get into the atoms that keep this table together, something is keeping it together. If you could just release that energy that's keeping this table together into the world, you can blow up the whole world. So the scientist, you came to this truth, but it's not the truth, because they didn't say God. They didn't say Od Ein Sof. They didn't say it's the nucleus of Hashem. They made up words: proton, neutron, molecular activity, atoms. all words that are, you're skirting the issue. Why don't you just say God? So what I wanted to tell that I just read before I came to the class, once the scientists, some of them, saw this theory of Rabbeinu Ha'ari, that the world started with this light that came into the hole, and from this light, from then all the world started to become created through God's will, of course. They started to fall away from the Big Bang Theory because they didn't want to say a theory that might prove something that's written in our Torah. Look how much it bothered them. Because their whole reason why they came on to Big Bang Theory is to deny God. Once they saw order, but the Torah is talking about that. Oh, that says in the Torah. No. We don't believe in that. We have a different theory now. They thought they were going down a road that will lead them to atheism. But when they got to the end of the road, who was standing at the end of the road? Rabbeinu Ari was standing there. Hey, Baruch haba, welcome. Hey, what are you doing here, Rabbi? We went down this road. We thought we were going to see an atheist. No, you figured it out how Hashem created the world. Excellent. Now let's go serve God. Oh, and all these guys saw Rabbeinu Ari at the end of the road. So no, we're making you two have to go a different road over there. We'll go back in history. So again, they're not honest. They're intellectually deceptive. They're looking to, if you're looking for the truth, that's one thing, but they're not looking for the emet. So therefore they talk about molecular structure, but they don't mention the godliness in it. But nobody should think that our Torah doesn't recognize these concepts. Of course they recognize these concepts. If it's in this world, it has to be in the Torah because the Torah is the blueprint. If somebody's building a house, and the house is built already, and then somebody comes along and says, on the third floor, there's supposed to be a bathroom. And you go up to the third floor, and you don't see the bathroom there. So you say, wait, let's go back to the blueprint. And you go back to the blueprint, you look on the third floor, and there's no bathroom. You see, that's why there's no bathroom on the third floor here. Maybe you wanted it to be there, maybe you changed your mind. But if it's not on the blueprint, it's not going to be in the house. And if it is on the blueprint, it's going to be in the house. And therefore, whatever they're coming up with, if it's really a reality, so it's going to be in the Torah. They talk about, and this I never understood. I don't know what the question is, and I don't know what the resistance of the answer is. There are those that come along and say, you religious Jews, why don't you believe in dinosaurs? And the religious Jew comes and says, I get nervous from that question. Is dinosaurs a religion? The dinosaurs became Avodah Zarah all of a sudden? It's one of the Yud Gimel Ikarim that you're not allowed to believe in a dinosaur? They get all nervous and say, if you believe in dinosaurs, that means you believe in Yeshu. It's like somebody coming over, do you believe in giraffes? No, Chas v'Shalom, giraffes. I don't know. There's my rabbi. A dinosaur is an animal. Is there anything against our faith to believe that the dinosaurs existed? How come the Torah doesn't mention it? Who said the Torah doesn't mention it? That's not going to mention the word dinosaur, by the way. Dinosaur is a Latin word. That's not the name. It's a V'Kaneshem Obi Yisrael dinosaur. The Torah mentions it actually on page 1 in this week's parasha. Torah says on day 5 of creation, Yom Hamishi, that God created a Taninim HaGedolim. What is a Tanin? Tanin is not a name of an animal. The Torah doesn't list any names of specific animals on creation. It doesn't say he made lions and bears and cougars and aardvarks. It doesn't say names. A tanin is a species. It's a type of reptile. How do I know it's a type of reptile? Who can prove me that a tanin is a reptile? Later on in the Torah, when Moshe Rabbeinu throws his stick on the floor, one pasuk says it turned into a snake, a nahash. Other pasuk says, Vahi le tanin. Rashi says, what's tanin? Nahash. A tanin is the name of the species of snake. It's a reptile. So the Torah is telling you in this week's parasha that on Thursday God created taninim agedolim, the big ones. Big. Now if the Torah says they were big, they must be big. Because the Torah also refers to the luminaries. Me'orot, ma'ora gadol, that's the sun. So when God said a tanina gadol, He's not talking about, some lizard. He's talking about taninim agedolim. The Torah understands what the word gadol means. These big lizards, these big amphibious animals. Oh, so where are they then? If it says Taniim Gedulim, how come we don't find them? The Malbim asked that question. It's not our question. The Malbim talks about it in Parashat Noah. Malbim says they were wiped out during the flood. And he writes that all these bones that the archaeologists are finding, those are the bones of the big dinosaurs that were around there before the flood, before the great flood. There's still some around, he says, because Noah took every species under the Teva. He didn't take the big, humongous dinosaur into the Teva with him. He took a species of it. And those ones became, in the world, post-Teva. But the big ones that they're finding now, they were out from the... And what happened in the Teva? Everything got swallowed underneath the ground. The hot water came up and everything got buried. So they're just finding them there. What's the problem? There's nothing. It's not sacrilegious to say any of this stuff here. Somebody put in the minds of religious people not to believe in dinosaurs. I believe in God. I don't believe in dinosaurs. That there's such an animal that existed. So not to be such an animal that exists. A big deal. Not only that, but the Midrash says David HaMelech once had an encounter with a dinosaur. The Midrash says that one time David HaMelech was doing his shepherding and he saw a big mountain. To a shepherd, mountain is Gan Eden. So he climbs up the mountain and he's sitting on the mountain, so the mountain starts moving. They say actually it was an animal, they called it the Re'em. The Re'em is the old Hebrew way of calling a dinosaur. Re'em, Rashi Tevot, Rabbi Eliyahu Mansour. So the Re'em, he's on the animal, and all of a sudden it comes up, and he's holding on to the horns. He's worried, David HaMelech. He prays to God. He says, God Almighty, if you save me from this Re'em, I promise you to build you a temple the same dimensions of this animal. And God saved him. And David HaMelech says, Mekarnei Re'emim anitani. You saved me from the Karnei Re'emim, from the horns of the Re'em. And he measured the Re'em after, and it was 100 Amah. And he built the Beit HaMikdash with the same spec, the same size as Akarat HaTov. And today they're saying that they found dinosaurs that have that same size. So that means not only were there dinosaurs, but human beings had interactions with dinosaurs. And our Torah recognizes it. It's not something that the Torah... So there's a lot of misinformation. Probably, what does the Torah say with that? What does the Torah say with it? What does the Torah say about the age of the world? See, that's a big problem as well. If you ask us, we'll tell you very clearly. 5,773. We just celebrated another year. 5773. But you go to the Museum of Natural History, you go to Hayden Planetarium, and they tell you 15.1 billion. Now, I don't have a problem if they say 7,000. 5773, 7,000. So 1,000 got lost in the shuffle. It was 1,000, the tip. But from 15 billion to 50, so that's a big disparity. If you're an accountant, there's a big difference if your tax return is 5,773 or 15.1 billion. That's big difference. So what do we say? Again, not that we have to say anything. What we say is jump in the lake. That's what we say. What we say is go to shul tomorrow morning, put on tefillin, go keep Shabbat, and check your suits for Sha'anez. That's what we say at the end of the day. I don't have to defend every critic that's going to come along and hurl their opinions. Oh, you got me. You didn't get me. I'm still the Torah. 1,000 of you will come and go, and not one letter of the Torah will move from its place. But already, if you're talking and you have an open mind, I'll refer you to some opinions that are brought down by the Ramban. The Michtav Me'Eliyahu also mentions this in his book, Rabbi Dessler. And he says, wait, when we say 5773, when is that from? From which day of creation? So the sixth day of creation, absolutely. That's when man was created. How do I know that? Because every Rosh Hashanah, we commemorate the creation of Adam Rishon. And on that day of Rosh Hashanah, which is the birthday of man, what do? We switch the calendar. We click it, another year. Our calendar follows Rosh Hashanah, on the creation of man. So from man, for sure, it's 5,770. And we can prove that, by the way. It's very easy to prove it. Adam Rishon was born, let's say that day, the sixth day of creation. 10 generations is Noah. Now, Adam and Rishon lived 930 years. Noah lived 600 years when the flood started. So the flood is about 1500 from creation, from Adam. 10 generations from Noah to Abraham Abinu. Abraham was born in 1948, not 1948, our 1948, 1948 of creation. 6 generations later is Moshe Rabbeinu. Jewish people come out of Egypt 2,448. That's the same year we got the Torah. 40 years later we come into Eretz Yisrael, 2,488. 500 years later we have a Beit HaMikdash that's built. The Beit HaMikdash lasts for 410 years. 70 years in Bavel. 420 years the second Beit HaMikdash. So we know what happened. We can document every one of those years with an event. So it's not like we're taking 15 billion years of history and we're somehow squeezing it into 5,700 years. We can tell you exactly what happened in every single year from Adam Rishon until today. So you tell me 15 billion, what's 15 billion years? Yeah, from Adam, tell me what happened in those 15 billion years. Where's all the history? Where's all the Hadushim? Where's all the, don't confuse me with the Aztecs and the Mayas and the Incas and all that. Tell me what happened. Tell me a story that happened in 15 billion years. The world history should be, the history books should be from here to China, the history books. Where's all the presidents? Where's all the wars that were supposed to happen in 15 billion years? So it's clear from Adam Rishon, we can tell you what happened every single year to 5773. The question is what happened before Adam Rishon. This is not talking about. Oh, but it says, Rabbi, there were 6 days. Well, the sun wasn't created till Wednesday. So I don't know what type of days these were. There was a day without a sun and even if you want to tell me there were 24-hour days, I don't know what time was. The Ramban says time was a different time. Could be in 24-hour days. The time was a very, very compacted time, and a lot was able to accomplish in that small amount of time, and therefore could be the first 6 days of creation in our terms of time. The way we measure it today, after Adam Rishon is born, is 15 billion years. Don't get me wrong. I'm not running to appease anybody. I'm not running. Oh, see. Okay, we're good. We can answer that question. We're saved. I'm not trying. I don't have to defend ourselves to anybody. But for all those that are throwing darts at the Torah, go study it first, and you'll start to see that a lot of things that are being said, which might be true, there might be truth to that, but they have their sources also in the Torah itself. Could be in the first 6 days of creation. It was a different calculation of time, and that's how we're concerned. You want to believe it, you'll go to Olam Haba. You don't want to believe it, you're still going to go to Olam Haba. To me, it's not one of the 13 Ikarim of the Emunah anyway. If somebody comes to me, no, I believe that the 6 days were 6 days of 24 hours, and the world is 5773 plus 6 days. That's it. You're still going to Olam Haba. No problem. You can go up Aliyat Shishi. And if somebody comes, no, I believe that the first 6 days, they were much longer than the regular days. You get Aliyat Maftir, no problem. You can be the rabbi. It doesn't bother me either way. But what bothers me is when the critic comes along and thinks that the science and the professor has an edge over the Torah, that guy cannot have shishi. That guy cannot even carry the Torah in the shul. Because that you're coming to give more credence to a synthetic knowledge than to the knowledge of the divine of God. But if you're an honest person with an open mind, and you want to see, the Torah recognizes this concept. We could live in shalom with this concept. This concept is alluded to. Not every false theory, but theories that are legitimate. Of course the Torah is going to recognize it. If it's a legitimate theory, it has to be in the blueprint. And this is true with everything. Recently I heard a story, and I'll conclude. There was an Arab. I don't know if he writes it in his book, Rabbi Zamir, but I heard it from him. He said that he was giving a lecture, and after the lecture was over, an Arab convert to Judaism came to him. And he told the rabbi why he converted. He said he was at the mosque above the Kotel HaMaravi on a Friday. And he asked his father, he said, this day is our Sabbath. He said, yes. He said, I want to ask you a question, Pa. He said, if this is our Sabbath, why is there another day, day 7? If Sabbath means it's at the end of the week, so shouldn't after day 6 go day 1? This was his question. He said, the Jews, what do they have? Their Sabbath is day 7. And then after day 7, what happens? It goes back to day 1. And then he thought to himself and he said, the whole world follows a 7-day calendar. There's nobody that does not follow 7 days. Where did they get 7 days from? Where did they get 7 days? And he came to the conclusion that it must come from the Perashat Bereshit, Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz ubayom hashivei Shabbat. That's the only source for a 7-day world. So he said, why am I celebrating day 6? And there's a day 7 that follows, and the Sabbath comes at the end of the week. So he converted from that one truth that he said must be coming from our Torah. I don't know how somebody can answer that. I don't know what the scientist has to say where they came up with a 7-day week. You see, he can tell me where they came up with a month. Because a month is a lunar cycle of the moon. The moon takes 29 and a half days for it to wax and wane. So they got a month. The month is 29 days. It's based on the moon. And I know where they got a solar calendar from, because it takes 365 days for the Earth to revolve around the Sun, or the Sun to revolve around the Earth. That's still a big debate in itself. But it takes 365 days for that process to take place. I even know where they got a day from, a 24-hour day. Because it takes the Earth 24 hours to make one rotation. The Earth's diameter is 24,000 miles. The Earth travels 1,000 miles an hour, spinning 1,000 miles an hour. So in 24 hours, it'll spin once. So I know where they got a day from. 24 hours doesn't bother me. A month doesn't bother me. A year doesn't bother me. All that is science. But ask me, where did they get 7 days from? What is it commemorating? 7 days. On the contrary, if you'd ask me, and I was making the calendar, I would not make a week 7 days. I'd make it an even 10 days. Or make it 5 days. So you have a perfect 30-day month, which is 6 weeks perfect. Why make every month 4 weeks remainder 2? Why have that oddity? Why not make it an even number, round it off? Explanation is that's the Torah is telling you that. The only reason why they came up with a 7-day week in every way, even in atheistic China, if I'm not mistaken, I was in Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken, they had 7 days in Hong Kong also. Right or wrong, Nat? Wherever you go, it's 7 days. From the Torah, of course. I know that, but they didn't change it. 7 days they had. You bring your proof. She had 7 days. 7 days. So she'll know which day of the week it is. That means even that's the proof that there was 7 days. In Europe, there was a time that they wanted to make it a 10-day week. But yeah, Europeans, there was a time that they wanted to build the Panama Canal also. You saw what happened. It didn't work. It was a failed attempt. You can't go against the Torah cycle. Again, the point over here is we must feel very proud that we're the bearers of this truth. Nobody should feel Chas v'Shalom, regressive or feeling, shy, that we have an old book. On the contrary, you're holding the most modern, the most advanced, the most revealed, the most progressive. This is the Ga'abad Kedusha that a Jew is supposed to have when it comes to the Torah. Nobody should think, because they depict us like that. Oh, you religious people, black hats, their head in the wall. They don't know how to. You don't realize it. You're holding this book over here. All the secrets of the creation are in this world over there. And every day in science, they're coming out with another truth. And we say, we knew that already. I was like, where have you been? Where have you been? It's on page 4. This is on page 2. This is on page 1. So you're holding the book in your hand. So on the contrary, who's the one that has to be proud? Who's the one that should be on the defense and who should be on the offense? We're on the offense. We have the truth. Now you come and prove to me your theory. I don't have to prove my theory. This is an introduction. This is just an introduction to the book of Bereshit and to the Sefer of Bereshit. And Be'ezrat Hashem, with that proper introduction, to know the truths of our Torah, then Be'ezrat Hashem in the coming weeks we'll be able to start to take each parasha apart properly and give it the proper analysis, but not the way we learned it last year. Now we have to study it on a new level because we're smarter than we were last year, just like we're smarter than we were in kindergarten. I get most excited when I go to a class and I walk out and I said, I never heard that. That's the proper reaction when you go to class. Some people have a reverse reaction. They say, I don't know what he was talking about. I never heard any of that stuff. Because they're so programmed that when you go to a class, you have to hear everything that you know already. Because their mindset is, I know everything already. So if he's going to tell me something I never heard of, must be it's not true. Because I know everything. I learned it already in first grade. And my father on the Friday night table asked me the 20 questions on the Parashah, and I got all 20 right. And I was a whiz in Chumash class. And I took the BJE test, and I scored very high. And now the rabbis coming to me stuff that I don't know. That's the Hadush. You have to come learn things that you don't know. That's the exciting part of the Torah. And if you go to class for 10 million years, every time you'll come out and say, I never knew that. Of course, you have to go to a class that's giving you things that are from our tradition. Torah is not for freelancing. The Torah is not, everybody wants to say what he wants to say. Rabbi Miller used to say, everybody has their right to their worthless opinion. Torah is not subject just to, giving your opinion what I think. Torah is a tradition. You have to follow the sequence of Mesorah. But even with the sequence of Mesorah, the Gaon of Vilna said in 3 words of the Torah, 1,080 Pirushim. Just on one Pirudachem Safona, 1,080 Pirushim on 3 words of the Torah. So it's an endless study. Okay, we'll stop over here. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen. Amen.